Alright, in this video we're taking a look at a blast from the past. We're going to talk about Women's Volleyball Championship and why I think it's maybe one of the best volleyball games ever made. Alright, so let's just jump right in. This game is one that probably not many people have heard of, or ever played, or ever seen, or even know what I'm talking about if you haven't seen any of the videos of my playthroughs on the channel. It's a game that I found in the bargain bin at Zellers. Does anybody remember Zellers? Maybe you've never even heard of that. Yeah, exactly. A bargain bin at Zellers is where I found Women's Volleyball Championship for PS2. Unbelievable. But when I plucked it out of that bargain bin, took it home and plugged it in, I realized that I had stumbled upon something truly amazing. Alright, here's a free ball. Yep. You know where it's going. Sharp! Oh! Did you see that?
Number 12.
Great dig! Taking a dump!
Taking a dump! Powerful!
Banger. That was weak.
Then, attack!
Oh, okay, hold on.
Back attack!
Pancake!
Close. So close.
Terrible.
What?
Passing the ball.
Uh-oh.
Taking a dump! It's definitely passing the ball.
Okay, maybe I gotta aim in the right spot.
Set.
Good dig! Taking a dump! Yes! Come on!
This point is crucial.
This is a crucial point.
We've talked a lot about volleyball games and the game mechanics a lot in reviews before and other of my gameplay videos on this channel. But I think Women's Volleyball Championship, of all of them, maybe has one of the best combinations of button pressing mechanics for each of the volleyball related contacts. For the pass contact, you've got to press the button right as the ball reaches the player to get a good pass. If you're a little bit early or late, you'll do a poor pass, and if you're way too early or way late, your player will completely shank it for an ace. This makes a lot of sense, as it's the eyes, you can follow it with your eyes as the ball comes through and press the button at a very clear time when the ball gets to the player. Some other games do things where the timing's a little bit different, but here it makes a lot of sense. It's what you can see, it's the thing you can time properly, and if you miss it a little bit, it makes sense that you wouldn't let a complete ace go, but that you'd have a bad pass. Each of the passes go really high, which gives the player a little bit extra time to look at all their setting options. Each of the buttons appear on screen so you can see who's available for you to set, and to pick who you want to set, you just press that button. Really player friendly in telling you who you've got so you don't really have to figure it out. It's all visible on screen, and they have options for every single hitter in the game. That includes A balls, pipes, C balls, all the back row options, middle options, and both players on the right and left, which is very different than any other indoor volleyball game I've seen before. The hitting mechanics are probably the best just pure game design for a mechanic that I've seen out of a spike action in a volleyball game. When you make your set selection, you press and hold the button to accumulate power for the set as the ball travels towards the attacker. Then, right before the player hits the ball, you want to let go to have a maximum amount of power for the attack. This is kind of unique among volleyball games for a spiking mechanic, but I think it's maybe one of the strongest. You can feel the rumble in the controller as the anticipation builds up for the attack that's about to come. And as a player, you can take an element of risk just the same as you would if you were attacking in a real volleyball game. If you hold it too long, trying to accumulate as much power as possible, and it goes too powerful, you'll pound it way out the back, and I've done that a number of times. Why is that the case? Pipe to pancake.
Good job!
Oh, that was so close.
That is ridiculous.
Powerful!
Good dig.
Set.
Pancake, hit across.
Original team. The attack went way off the target.
I think she's getting too cautious of getting blocked.
There was no block, Nancy. She's not cautious of getting blocked. If you don't hold it long enough, you won't accumulate enough power in the attack, and the rally will continue, but you won't end up getting a point. This kind of adds a risk-reward situation here for the attacks, making you feel every single rumble, every single attack, every time you go through, making any success or failure very much on the player's skill. The defense mechanic works just the same as it does for the serve receive and passing mechanic. You've got to press the button right before the attack reaches the defending player. But in this situation, it doesn't work quite as well in the serve receive, as often what happens, it's so fast that as a player you have to press the button almost as soon as the attack has been made, meaning that you're just basically pressing the same thing every time. It's hard to really get a sense of what the timing is and if you're really doing a good job. Also, there's a tip option that changes up the pace of the ball's trajectory. So if the opponent tips the ball and you've already pressed the button, anticipating a hard hit, your player will automatically shank it, which I really wish there was a different way to do this in the game, because oftentimes I found myself shanking tips that I had a chance to get to. It's so slow, how can I not react to that? Because I've already pressed the button way too soon. The blocking as well is really well done in Women's Volleyball Championship. You control the middle blocker and move side to side to pick up either your left or right side blockers. You can stack up a triple block, keep it a double block, or just move the middle for single blocks. The AI will choose itself when to jump depending on where the ball's been set. So you'll always have potentially at least one AI blocker on each of the opponent's attackers. But what this allows the player to do is really choose and strategize where they want to defend on the court and try to protect every attacker. On the lower difficulty levels, you can pick up a triple block and go stack it up against whatever attacker they choose to set for a huge triple block every single time. But on harder difficulties, you have to make a little bit more educated decisions. You maybe want to leave one of the attackers on a right side player running a faster attack so that you can try to cover the middle and left sides. Or maybe leave one of their attackers if they're weaker in their skill levels. Making it so that as the difficulty levels get higher, you start having to make decisions that you may actually make as a coach or a high-level player in a real indoor volleyball game, which is really what you want to see out of a volleyball game, and an experience that I've never really had in an indoor game ever. I think the serving mechanic is also well done, even if it borrows a lot from previous volleyball games, and you press a certain button to which serve, and there's a power meter that slides up and down to determine how powerful you attack, and you can aim where the ball goes on the court. I think this is pretty standard. I don't think it brings anything unique here, but I think it's good enough for what this game tries to do. You are capable of hitting an ace if you take some risk and put it in a good location with full power, just the same as you are likely to get passed up very easy if you put in a careful underhand with low power. The other piece that I want to talk a little bit about too is how you actually decide where the ball is going to go when you're attacking. Unlike other games, Women's Volleyball Championship has a very quick time for you to actually aim and not that visible of a reticule with where you're actually going, making it so that A, it's tough to see where you're actually aiming, so you kind of have to feel it out, and B, there's not a lot of time for you to make that decision. So it really is a quick sequence of actions and makes it a little bit more of an action kind of Twitch gameplay style challenge to both hold the button to charge up your power, release it at the right time, but also be paying attention to where you're aiming if it's an open spot on the court and maybe you've actually moved your reticule out of bounds and you'll crush it wide, like I've also done a few times. I think the combo of the holding the button to increase the power, as well as moving the reticule about the opponent's side of the court in a short amount of time, really combines well to make attacking really satisfying in this game, unlike I've seen really in other volleyball video games, where combining both of those, taking some risk both on your hold time of the button and where you actually aim, to make it so that when you score, it was totally within your control. You picked a good spot with strong power to get you the kill, and you can feel the rumble as your player kind of pounds through it as you held up a ton of power. It feels really good to execute. The other piece that I haven't touched on yet is something that is quite unique to this game and that I've never really seen in other games before, is the amount of combinations that you can run. Before each game, you can set up your lineup, where each of your players' positions are, who your ace is, what rotation you start in, which players are in, but also you can set up a preset kind of onto 4 of the shoulder buttons, which plays you're going to run. If you hold that corresponding button before your player passes, your attackers will run a different route and go to a different position on a court and run a different tempo of set. This is something that I've never seen in a volleyball video game before, and it's something that I'm super excited about. I haven't really perfected it, but I'm really looking forward to experimenting with it more. They have every possible set combination that I could ever think of, and I think they've combined them in a pretty intelligent way. You can keep 4 presets, and so you can't have any more than that, so it doesn't get really complicated, but they've comboed them together in such a way where all of them really make sense. You can run shoots, you can run quicks, you can run back quicks, you can run back shoots, outside shoots, you can run a shoot and the left side player come around for a tandem, a shoot, the right side player come in for an X. You can kind of combo these all together. You're going to step around all of these different plays in a variety of different combinations that you can choose from to run with your team. The attention to detail here is actually kind of amazing for a game that many people have never heard of and seem to be fairly low budget. The fact that they were able to pull this off, have the animations look half decent while doing it, all of the button combinations work fine with each of the different combinations and sets, it is kind of unbelievable. Makes you look at a game like Spike Volleyball and wonder, how the heck did you screw this up when Women's Volleyball Championship seemed to somehow get this so right? So the gameplay overall, I would say, is one of the strong points of Women's Volleyball Championship, and just at the base, if you just playing games versus the computer or with a friend 1v1, it's fun to be had without any of the other modes. They have included a selection of modes that you can play through, and these are, I would say, fairly standard to sports games. You got your playoff mode, you got your season mode, you got your head-to-head mode. Those things I would say are pretty standard. They have a kind of world tour mode as well, kind of a international style mode where you play through seasons and tournaments and accumulate points for your team to achieve higher rankings on the world tour. This is a part of the game that I'm actually a little bit disappointed with. The playoff modes and season modes, I mean, work fine, and you play games in kind of a loose setting and you can win championships, and that can be rewarding and fun, but I think when you're looking at a sports game, you want to see something with just a little bit more depth, and the World Tour mode here, which had the potential to be that, it ends up falling a little bit short. The season mode, there's no real benefit to winning that. It's basically just a season mode with tournaments that you also play kind of intermittently throughout the season, so it's just kind of those two modes combined together. There's no real sense of progression for your team. You don't really have the option to add new players. You don't accumulate any new kind of resource that you can spend to help your team get better. When you win, there's no real reward other than just winning. So there's not that depth that I think you really want to look for when in a kind of a game mode like this in a sports game. If you've been watching any of my gameplay videos of this game on the channel, you may have seen that I'm playing as the original team. Which is a team of created players that I made using the Create a Player and Create a Team mode in Women's Volleyball Championship. I didn't film this, but it was one of the weirder experiences that I've had with this game. Creating players is seemingly partly luck, as you need to spend some amount of resources that you earn in this game to pick up cards that you then combine into trios or combos that will then add skills to your created player. So creating a player ends up being less like a create a player that you can customize like yourself, and more of, okay, here's a bit of a mini game that at the end results in a created player. As a result, if you look at my original team, I was able to name them all and give them all unique names, which is a ton of fun, and I could give them certain stats, but I didn't really have any control over the feel of my team and their skills. I just tried my best to combine the cards enough so that I got a really good player. There were some players I got really lucky with, like Kill It, who ended up having really high attack accuracy and power and became my best attacker, but there were some players that I really did a terrible job and didn't get really high scores, like a couple of my middles as well. So, you know, I ended up asking myself, do I want to go back to this weird mode to try to get a new player? Does it even work? Do I get lucky? Do I just try this over and over again? It seemed a bit unclear, and I didn't really want to seemingly waste my time doing something like that. So I was actually kind of disappointed in that mode and would have liked to see something changed up just slightly to make it a little bit better. For example, when I'm building my player, you keep the card thing, say, but you give me a limited selection of cards that I can add. So I can create a player that's a combination of all these cards that each correspond to, and with their combos, a skill boost for that player. So for example, if I created a player and I had 6 card slots available, maybe I give them all attack. So this is a perfect attacker, but their passing skills are terrible. That would be my choice. Then I could go out and use this player in a competitive game and see how it works. It wouldn't be up to luck, or I wouldn't be shuffling these cards out of a deck. I would actually pick, combine them, and create a unique play style with each combination of cards, which would be a lot more rewarding for players to engage with. And then when you hop back into the game, you're playing with a team of created players that you made and you customized, so the results are all on you, which I'm always a fan of for game design. And last but not least, we got to talk about the presentation and overall look of this game, and it's one that I'm less impressed with. The game is a little bit old, but it looks way older than it is. It only came out in 2008, which really isn't that long ago. There are some other games that came out in 2008 that look freaking amazing. And this game is really blocky, pixelated, the graphics really aren't that great. As well, the music is banging though, I gotta say. Every time I hear one of those tunes, it just makes me want to dance. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I don't know what they did and how they got the music so right in Women's Volleyball Championship, but I'm so thankful that they did. Every time I get back into a menu, I'm always jamming. I'm loving these tunes. As well, the voice acting. Nancy and John have become good friends of mine, but I will say, their dialogue is hilarious and is easy to make fun of and really have fun with in the game. But if what they were going for was kind of a serious commentary on the game, they missed by a wide margin. A lot of the lines that they come out with and the combinations and just the way they speak sounds so robotic and like something that a commentator would never really say. The way John yells out the country name before the player attacks, China, or yells out the player's number 7, before the player attacks, just makes you go, why does he need to yell that? That doesn't really make a ton of sense, and it's kind of jarring when you're in the middle of playing the game and the guy yells out something completely random. And that's not even to mention, by far, the best line of the game. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Number 12.
Great dig! Taking a dump!
Taking a dump! Passing the ball.
Oh.
Taking a dump! It's definitely
Taking a dump! I can't believe that nobody on the team thought, hey, maybe we shouldn't tell John Sarver to say taking a dump in a game. I don't know, just a thought. Overall, Women's Volleyball Championship does something really unique, something that I've never really seen done in an indoor volleyball game ever. The combination of the game design choices that they made with the button presses for each of the different unique volleyball contacts, mixed with the strategic elements that they have in the game with the blockers and moving them around to defend against opponents' attacks, and all of the different combinations they have in terms of your offensive capabilities, really make for, again, one of the most unique and interesting indoor volleyball experiences in a video game that I've ever seen. So for that reason, my final score for Women's Volleyball Championship is an 8 out of 10. It's a really great game. I think with the addition of a little bit of a deeper gameplay mode, like a World Tour mode, add some maybe a little bit of light RPG elements into that, so there's kind of a reason for a player to play more than 5 to 10 games and really engage with the systems a lot longer, mixed with a much better presentation, a little bit of an upgrade in graphics, and some better voice acting, although maybe not, they're pretty funny. But those combined together I think would have made Women's Volleyball Championship even better of a game, and I really hope that if anybody's making a volleyball video game in the future, they look to this game for some examples of how to do it well. The button combinations, the blocker system, the different offensive options that you have for your attacks, all three of those things, I think, if you're making a volleyball game, definitely need to be there. I don't see a better way to do them, and well, maybe I'll be proven wrong, but some games definitely have missed the mark on that, and Women's Volleyball Championship seem to have got it right. Anyway guys, that'll do it for Women's Volleyball Championship. I hope you enjoyed the review, and thanks for sticking all the way through to the end. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe button, maybe leave a like, I would appreciate that. Thanks for supporting the channel here at Yes Guy Gaming. It means a lot to me, and hopefully we can do some more fun and cool videos that you guys enjoy, hopefully like this one. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, and we hope to see you next time on Yes Guy Gaming.